And so those things influence a lot of my experience in the world and the way that I move about life. And so I began to think, what if this child I knew would suffer for sure? Like, what if I knew my child is going to suffer? There's no doubt about it. They're going to wrestle with wanting to be alive, with seeing themselves as worthy of being alive, or that life is worth living. Is it still okay for me to give birth to that child? And if so, how would I respond to that child when they question me about it? And that's how I started to build Nate's story.
Hello, friends. I'm Cassandra Harris-Towner.
And I'm Daiana Bernard.
And as licensed mental health counselors, we're unpacking the quiet, complex griefs that don't always come with a funeral. Because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge.
Welcome to the Living Loss Podcast. We are so glad you're joining our conversation as we name these losses and create a meaningful path forward together. Please subscribe and share this episode. It helps us grow this community and reach others who need to know that their grief is valid. Let's dive in.
We talk about quiet losses on this show, and today we're looking at disenfranchised grief and ambiguous loss.
Today we're talking about a side of loss that usually gets whispered about, the complicated feelings, possibly anger of our losses, whether it's a loved one or parts of ourselves. We are going to be joined by Joel Asensio. He is the author of How Much Could a Clementine Weigh? And there is this character named Nathaniel. He's the main character, and he is incredibly raw about the suffering that can be felt when you're trying to process feelings that seem unsurmountable.
Now, the reason why this falls under disenfranchised grief is because this is the pain that you feel when your loss isn't fully validated by the world around you. Because sometimes the relationship was messy, or it was a negative situation, or even if you're struggling with something inside of you, it doesn't get validated by those that know you or those that know of the situation or people just passing by. When you're conflicted with someone or even within yourself, there's nobody that's there to defend themselves, and we tend to shut ourselves down. Sometimes this experience can impact our ability to actually process the fact of the physical loss. So in this situation, there was a loss of a parent, but there's also a loss of identity. And so that's what makes it so disenfranchised.
Yeah. And there's also that layer of ambiguous loss. Even if the relationship was strained, losing a parent or a loved one often means the losing of a child version of ourselves or any version of ourselves. You're navigating the death of a person or version, but also the death of hope that things could be as we wanted them to be.
Yep. And then there's the ripple effect. While we're processing our experiences and feelings, we're also navigating a complicated relationship with those who are living. Sometimes it's like the grief is a mirror reflecting every other fractured piece of the family.
Yeah. We are very excited to introduce Joel Asensio. He is a husband, a father, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and as of March 25th, a self-published author. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations. This is a big deal.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank you.
huge deal.
Thank you. This is awesome. That was really good. That was great, guys.
Thank you.
You know, it's a little thing we threw together today. Whatever.
Yeah. I loved it.
So
Awesome.
I'm a little bit curious when it comes to writing a book. I've never written a book. Diana, have you ever written a book?
No. I've
No.
not.
So I'm curious as not only about like Nathaniel as a character and how all of this went about, but also where did it all begin?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, writing a book is tricky. It can be a little overwhelming at times. The initial thought for How Much Could a Clementine Weigh was birthed through the loss of my mother when my mom passed away about nearly 6 years ago, to the state. My wife was also pregnant with my daughter at the time. And I remember thinking, my daughter is going to be born and eventually she's going to die. And how can I reconcile with feeling like this is a good thing, knowing that she may experience suffering and may eventually pass away? And that was a significant trajectory. It kind of pushed me into a depressive state, a depressive season, as I wrestled with the reality of losing my mother and then also the joy of having a child and the fear of losing them. And yeah, that's what really birthed the book.
Yeah. What you're speaking
Yeah.
about there is that anticipatory grief. And that is an experience that we often don't talk about because we don't know what's happening.
Mhm.
When we lose a parent, when we lose a grandparent, it triggers that you're also going to lose. Let's say for me recently, that happened to me where I lost my grandmother and I couldn't be
Mm.
there physically when my grandmother was in the hospital. And that part of me couldn't because of that anticipatory grief was so heavy that I'm going to have to experience that with my mom
Mhm.
and I'm going to have to support my kids through that. So because of other reasons I couldn't be there, but um it left some space for me for that anticipatory grief to grow. But when you're experiencing it in real time and to have a daughter as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting because I had forgotten that I had a similar experience with my
Mm,
pregnancies. Just I didn't lose anyone during the time, but I did have this experience of what right do I have to bring someone into this world when I know that eventually they're gonna have to leave it?
yeah,
And there's a lot of grief wrapped up in that.
yeah, yeah, there's so much, and, I think we're gonna go into spoilers, right? So, I can say a little bit about the book, it's spoiler alert, um,
Mhm.
but, yeah, so when I started writing it initially, it was coming from the perspective of the parents, right? Like, how can I justify giving birth to a child that I know will eventually suffer and pass away as well? And then it started to shift for me because although I'm a counselor, right, I'm also human and I have my own battles with, major depressive disorder, uh, ADHD and PTSD. And so those things influence a lot of my experience in the world and the way that I move about life. And so I began to think, what if this child I knew would suffer for sure? Like, what if I
Mm.
knew my child is going to suffer? There's no doubt about it. They're going to wrestle with wanting to be alive, with seeing themselves as worthy of being alive, or that life is worth living. Is it still okay for me to give birth to that child? And if so, how would I respond to that child when they question me about it? And that's how I started to build Nate's story. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so that's how that started.
Mhm. Well, we were very lucky to get the book before it comes out on the 25th. And something that really stood out to me was the
Mm,
reality of what that experience looks like from death, especially a parent, and to
mm,
experience that the depressive episode or just living with major depression.
yeah,
It's a
I
journey.
appreciate that. It is. Yeah, my goal ultimately was to not glamorize the idea of depression, glamorize the idea of suffering, but paint it realistically as someone who has that lived experience and know what it's like to kind of navigate through those waters. I wanted Nate to feel very real. And so people who read it who may have experienced it or maybe not experienced it or know how to name it are like, that feels familiar.
Mhm.
Also being on the other side of things, there's this character, Emily, who was a significant other, right? Being on the other side of someone who's depressed, right? If you were ever raised with a parent with depression, I can see how that child is always trying to figure out maybe how to save their parent, or if you have a spouse or a partner, anyone in your life that suffers with depression and you feel closed out and you feel like, what can I do to help them? What can I do to save them? And you keep hitting this wall. It was wonderful for me to see that tension between the two with Emily and Nathaniel and like to feel her I don't know, frustration, desperation
Yeah.
to let him know how much he is loved. And as a reader, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? She's amazing. She's a safe
You're dropping the
person.
ball.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
that's what it truly looks like when a person is in that state. They don't see that. When you are trying to save someone, and Nathaniel's dad as well, trying to save him, that there's this desperation coming from the people that love this person who's
Mm.
struggling.
Yes.
And it's really hard. It feels impossible on both ends.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, Emily's character was interesting. She developed at first I had the idea of her just being a good friend. And then as I sat with it longer, I was like, I feel like there's more connective tissue between them than that. And it felt like fleshing out that relationship would be helpful in for people who maybe are with someone who struggles with major depressive disorder or with someone who struggles with mental health in general, it would be good for them to have their own person they can kind of look at and go, oh, I know what that feels like. Like I feel seen too. And seeing how
Mhm.
Emily kind of navigates her struggle with Nate, obviously spoiler again, obviously they end up breaking up and that has an impact on Nate. But Emily's ability to walk away was significant because it was reflective of her love for him and for herself. That you're not at the place to actually wrestle with this right now, and so we're gonna take a break. Who knows? Maybe come back. I know I had a couple
Well,
of people wanting them to get back together at the
well,
end.
I'm telling you right now, Nate is totally back with Emily and they're having their best
Uh
life in my head.
huh.
Okay. That is
I
exactly
love it.
where my mind went, especially
Yeah.
towards the at the end of the book. I was like,
Hmm.
they're getting back together.
Hmm.
And what you were saying there definitely came through for me. And
Mm,
I feel so lucky because I read a different version of it before Emily
yeah.
became a partner, and I can see what that brought to your story. And at the end of the book, you talk about the process a little bit in your author's note, and being able to receive feedback from people in real time as you're going through this. And like you said, you in the author's note that there's so many edits that you go
Yes.
through.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell us more a little bit about just that process?
Yeah. So yeah, initially there were so many different drafts of this story. It had a different title, which I'll tell you about.
Oh, I wanna know about that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, there again, when you create something, I think we talked about this before, like when you create something and you kind of give it to the world, there's a feeling, there's a fear, there is anticipation of being rejected, right? Like there's a fear
Mhm.
there. And for me, what was important was that the book conveyed what I was aiming for more than anything else. It's like I'm trying to really share a part of myself. And if people are impacted, it's amazing, right? And so with the edits, some people got advanced copies, like original drafts and then other drafts, and we were going through. Getting the feedback was sometimes painful, but I saw it as a necessary suffering in the effort of giving Nate the story that he deserves, like really fleshing it out and making sure that people really felt impacted and seen and heard and believed. Like your suffering is real and it matters. If not
Mhm.
to people around you, it matters to me.
Mhm.
And so that's why it was important. And so getting the edits, so I would get feedback, I'd look at the feedback, I'd kind of gather everything together and look and say, okay, is it feedback for taste? Like, is the person just like, well, I prefer fantasy or romance, And so this
Mm.
isn't really my cup of tea, or pun intended, or is, or is this feedback like character driven, like character arcs? Like some people were like, I want to know more about Nate's mom, right? Like, tell me more about her. I want to know more about her. And I'm like, I would love to, but the story centrally isn't focused on Nate's mom. Like, it really
Mm.
is about his relationship with himself internally and the implications of
Mhm.
the external on the internal. And so I could go into his mom's childhood and what it was like for her to grow up with this and all of that stuff, but it's not the focus of the story. And so learning what type of edits needed to be made was really that was a skill that I didn't have, and so I was, like,
Mhm.
kinda leaning on other friends of mine who are writers and other people who are writers to kinda get a better scope and perspective on how to edit it. And then going to my copy editor and my developmental editor and all of the different editors that it takes to publish a work and making sure that everything came out properly. That was a process.
Yeah. Yeah. In real time was helping you shape Nathaniel's experience
Absolutely.
as well. And speaking of Nathaniel and the title of the book, how did those come about? The
Yes.
names and everything.
Yes. So Nathaniel, it's funny, I originally was thinking about what I wanted to name the main character, and I was like, "Man, like, I want it to be subtle, I don't wanna be on the nose and, using
Mhm.
nuance," you know? And I found that the name Nathaniel means gift from God, and I was like, "What better name for a child who feels like their life isn't worth living than for their parent, who they're upset with for giving birth to them, to name them a gift?" Like they are considered that gift. And so in the book, there are moments where the dad will refer to Nate as Nathaniel. And every single time I made sure like Nate caught it. There's moments where you'll see Nate kind of react to it with the intention of maybe somebody will look up his name and be like, why is he reacting this way? And it's like, "Oh, that's because he's saying, 'You're my gift from God.' My gift
Mhm.
from God, you feel this way, and I still love you, and I want you to know that you're loved, and you are a gift." And then for how much could a Clementine weigh, how I came up with that, originally it was called Clementine Tea, which felt way too on the nose. And
Mhm.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos from other authors and influencers who, help people write books, come up with ideas, different things like that. And there's one in particular, and he was talking about how titles of books tend to, if a title can provoke a question, that's a good title, right? If the title is like, I wonder what that is about, that's a good hook. And so I was like, Clementine Tea sounds kind of, for lack of better terms, basic. It's just kind of
Mhm.
flat. And as I thought about it, I was like, man, I wonder how much clementines weigh. And then I was like, how much could a clementine weigh? And I'm like, man, that title kind of matches the theme. It's like the Clementine itself represents this idea of life, right? Like this idea of experience of love and joy and those moments that make life worth living. How much weight do those hold in my
Yeah.
life, in a life of suffering, right? And so it's like, how much could a Clementine weigh? And that's how I kind of came up with the title. But
Mhm.
yeah,
I love the connectivity of not only the title and the name of the character, but also bringing everything back to the idea that this is a experience that someone could have or does have or is currently having, and how important it is to have those connections to the outside world. Because when you're wandering through life in this bubble, in this sphere, because that was one of my favorite parts about the book, not to give away too much of it, but like how confusing the timeline was. Like, I had no idea what day it was, what time it was, if it was snowing, if it was not snowing. It was fascinating. And
mm,
then to have, like, these glimmers of hope, these glimmers of light, these glimmers of these moments where everything could be better if we
mm,
just let that light in while we're working to, like,
yes,
accept our identity. It's that connectivity. So how
mm,
much does a Clementine weigh is a beautiful representation of that. So thank you for
yeah.
explaining that.
Mhm.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
the intention definitely was to cause disorientation, because for Nate, it is disorienting. He's not sure time, he's not sure day. He just knows that he doesn't want to be there. And so that's a big part of it. In fact, when I was writing it, I wanted the scope to be very zoomed in. Think of like characters who are trapped in a house and they can't get out. I think of the movie Clue, right? Like these characters are all there and they can't escape. So we have to deal with what's here. There's no way out. And so kind of isolating the characters, making it so that way the two are stuck together, I think speaks volumes to how Nate is feeling internally. He's feeling trapped, and he's trapped by
Mhm.
his grief. He's trapped by his depression. He's trapped by his father, and he's trapped by the storm.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that was the goal. So I'm glad you
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah.
And, like, the
Yeah.
steadfastness of the people that
Yes.
love him, like, the just consistency. Even his mother, though she wasn't there was like consistency in her love. There's consistency in his love. There's consistency, and even just the ex-girlfriend being like, "Hi, just saying hi, you don't have to respond." Just how stable others can be
Mm.
in this time of turmoil.
Yeah, I love that. And add to that, in spite of their consistency, Nate still struggles
Yep.
because it's not reflective of their capacity. His struggle is not evidence that their love is falling short or that it's not
Yep.
enough. It's just he has something else going on that is impacting his ability to receive it. And so that was part of the conveying too, is like I wanted them to be consistent. And one of the things that I got feedback on and I was like, this is something that I really want to work on is not making dad so stoic. Like not making
Mm.
him like just a pillar that is unmoved, but more so a human who feels and who had doubts, who had fears. There's a point in the book, spoilers again, where dad comes to the conclusion of like, or where he shares his struggle with Nate and how he doubted his ability to love him. He's like, how can I love a child who's suffering? And I think that that was my own insert a little bit, like that feeling of like, how can I love my daughter in the way that she deserves to be loved, while also understanding that there will come a time where she suffers and she eventually will pass on. Like that
Mm.
heart-wrenching thing that I think parents experience, the fear, but his dad stays nonetheless, just like his
Mhm.
mom and just like Emily. There's a staying there that each of them exhibit in different ways.
Yeah, those moments of connection, there are many within
Mhm.
the story, and that is a theme that was evident to me. I really love this book because I love character-driven stories. It's not,
Mm,
this action book or anything like that. There isn't all this drama. It's just very real.
yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I wanted
Mhm.
it to be very grounded, and I love character studies too. Like, I know a lot of people
Mhm.
talk about Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame and the difference between the two. And people love Infinity War because
Mhm.
it's just action, 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 action. Whereas in Endgame, it's very much a character study. It's like, what do these characters do? Like, when you pull apart their basic things, what do they become? Captain America is a counselor for veterans, for people who are suffering. It's like, when you pull out all that stuff and we study the characters, who are they? And I think Nathaniel, his dad, Emily, his mother, they're real and they're influenced by people who I have in my life, people who have influenced me. And so, yeah, yeah, I appreciate that.
Mhm. For sure. I could relate and experience every character in the stage that
Mm,
they were in,
mm, that's encouraging.
which was incredible. Yeah, I told Cassandra, I'm like, "I don't know how he made me feel all these feelings, but I had so many experiences," and I was like, "What is
Mm,
happening right now?" Down to just happened to be drinking orange and cinnamon tea. I'm like, "What is happening? This is making me"
I'm living
like,
in your
yeah.
head.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And I know, Joelle, that this book will reach the people that
Mm,
need it most, that will resonate with it. I don't think that
um,
any book or any genre is for everyone, but I have so much hope and faith that this book will find those people.
yeah,
And I know
I
there are gonna
appreciate
be
that.
moments when I just see it in a like a vision, like, I don't know if you've ever been to a bookstore that you don't intend to buy a book, but it just stands out, and you're like, "What is this?" And you pick it up, and it's the book that you need. I know that's
Mm,
gonna happen. I know people are
oh,
gonna look at that book. The cover is gorgeous.
oh, thank
It
you.
is it is beautiful, and I just know that it will. That's gonna happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I actually had somebody design it. So it wasn't AI, but I had someone design it and it was it was a work in progress. We did a lot of work on the cover to make it feel, not only compelling but also interesting. Yeah, like it captures the book and it's yeah,
I truly see that.
appreciate
And
that.
as we wrap up today's conversation, we're going to move on to our favorite part of the show. It is the living loss lessons. This is where we bridge everything we've talked about with tangible takeaways you can use right now.
So these lessons aren't about fixing the pain. but about finding a way to carry it. Sometimes it's a tool to practice, and other times it's reflecting on the meaning you've built from a loss you'd never asked for. It's the strength that you've gained, even in the midst of the hard stuff. So, Joel, what would you highlight as your living loss lesson in all of this?
Yeah. I'd say that even in the midst of suffering, there are sweet things to be found that tether us. That's what I would say is my living loss
Mm-hmm.
lesson. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard
Yeah.
it's hard to find those when you're in it.
Hmm.
But I think there's so much hope in you telling us, even when you're in it, there is still sweetness.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just those moments of normalcy.
Exactly. Those minuscule,
Yeah.
small, insignificant clementines.
Yes. We're not going to spoil that part. I want
Mhm.
the, you know,
Keep some
listeners
things under
to read.
wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for you. And I feel that everyone who reads the book is going to feel their own impact. That's very personal.
Mm.
I feel that
Mhm.
the way that everything ties together so beautifully.
Thank you.
Cassandra, do you have a living loss lesson?
I'm just
Girl?
grateful, honestly, that I was given the experience to experience this.
Mm.
It's not a book I would have picked. It's not something I would have grabbed off the shelf and read
Mm.
because I'm more of like a fiction, like a Star Trek kind of person. So I
Yeah.
like a lot of like moving parts and a lot of action, but this has definitely given me an unexpected gift of
Mm.
feeling seen and feeling heard that I wasn't expecting. So
Mm.
those moments of sweetness can come from even just unexpected experiences. And for that, I'm grateful. So thank you for helping me look for things that I wouldn't normally look for.
Oh, thank
I
you.
love that.
It's
I
encouraging.
love that. This book definitely opened up a lot of different parts. Something that I learned through it is whether I'm on the side that's going through emotional hardship or that it's okay that I have felt those ways. It's okay to feel we minimize and we think that all these ordinary things don't matter.
Mhm.
And it's okay to feel that way. And then to be on the other side, to love someone going through this, that you're
Mm.
not loving them wrong. You're not loving them, the love is enough and it's not you. But what I saw with people in Nathaniel's life is that they stood by. And even with Emily, I was really happy for her. The way he
Mm.
wrote it, it left me happy for her that she knew that possibly she knew that that's something that she had to do. So I just saw love in this story
Mm.
depicted in so many different ways.
Mm.
So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
Hmm.
you, guys.
I am personally interested in knowing how we get a hold of you. Like, how do we find this book? Like, what's going on? What's going
Mm.
on surrounding the release?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Okay. Yeah.
Do
I'm
it
on
now.
Instagram. Yeah, now I'm on Instagram under author Joel Asensio. You can find me on Instagram. I'm posting videos and content talking about the book and also some things that are coming up. April 25th, I'll be at the Tarpon Springs Book Festival selling and signing books. I also am going to be doing a pre-order special edition. So for the people who pre-order the book, they'll get a journal of questions that they can go through as they read through the book that help them not only connect more with Nate, but also ask themselves these same kind of questions that Nate would likely be wrestling with. And then you get entered into a raffle as well to get a bespoke version of the book. So a custom made, custom designed, one of a kind version of the book. You get entered into the raffle for pre-ordering it. Um, yeah, so we have all that going on, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm definitely entering that raffle, and if I win, it wasn't rigged, guys,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm
100% rigged.
crossing all my fingers.
Yeah, I love it.
That's amazing.
Good
That is
stuff.
great. I'm I'm really excited for all of this, and congratulations, huge
Thank
congratulations
you.
to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much, Joelle. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for sharing
guys.
the story and for being with us here today. And thank you to our listeners for being a part of our circle. Remember that by sharing this episode, you're helping us reach someone else who's carrying their loss in silence. Let's keep growing this community together. Subscribe, follow, share, and know that your story matters.
And just as a reminder, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While we are therapists, we are not your therapists. And this does not replace professional or mental health care. If you feel like you would like to speak to someone, please reach out to someone professional, preferably near you. And thank you again so much, Joel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I'll see you guys next week.